Chapter 1. The Sui Emperor raises an army to conquer Chen. Poem. Prosperity fades like light clouds, but immortality requires great achievements. A grand strategy aims to save the setting sun, but ambition cannot be confined to the ranks of the mediocre. In times of crisis, heroes must remain hidden. When fortune smiles, heroes will serve their rulers. Strange that history cannot fully capture all, so I use my brush to compose extraordinary tales. Extreme wealth, high status, and comfortable lives are pleasing to the eye, but they also lead to neglect and ruin, all hidden within. If not condemned for eternity, they are surely a laughingstock. The Guanhua Palace and the Bronze Sparrow Terrace have inspired countless poets and writers to sigh and mock. Only a hero from humble origins, who does not seek solace in wine and women, endures only loneliness and desolation, and can either rectify or rebuild the ruins created by these people, ensuring his name endures forever. Though his name was revealed later, his character was already established in his lifetime. Like the sun and moon, their essence is inherently bright, and even when obscured by light, smoke, and mist, their light still shines forth, though people fail to recognize it. Those who later praise him, putting pen to paper, only recount his achievements, never his humble beginnings. It's astonishing to hear that pine and cypress are born with towering stature, or that tigers and leopards possess the ferocity to devour oxen even in their youth. I haven't mentioned this man yet, but rather briefly outlined the circumstances of his life. This attempt to evoke him, to create a history book, would not record a tale unknown to humankind. However, only when a tool is broken and tested does its sharpness become apparent. Only when a blade is used to cut a wide thigh does its divine power become clear. From ancient times, man has determined that heaven can prevail, but extraordinary talents are often used to achieve great things. From ancient times, dynasties rose and fell, each with its own rise and fall. Yu, Xia, Shang, Zhou, Qin, Han, three kingdoms, and the Jin dynasty. After the Jin dynasty's crossing of the Yangtze River, the empire split into two, known as the Northern and Southern dynasties. In the Southern dynasties, Liu Yu usurped the Jin throne and established the Song dynasty. Xiao Daicheng usurped the Song throne and established the Qi dynasty. Xiao Yan usurped the Qi throne and established the Liang dynasty. And Chen Baxian usurped the Liang throne and established the Chen dynasty. Although each had a state name and claimed legitimacy, nominally emperors, their rule was weak, and they were confined to the south of the Yangtze River. In the northern dynasties, during the Jin dynasty, the central plains were occupied by various non-Han rulers, including Liu Yuan of Han, Shilu of Zhao, Fu Jian of Qin, Murong Hui of Yan, and Chuoba Gui of Wei, a period known as the Five Barbarian Invasions. After the Wei dynasty, chaos ensued, and the empire split into east and west. The two Wei dynasties were, one usurped by Gao Yang, son of Gao Huan, who changed the state name to Qi, the other usurped by Yuan Tai, who changed the state name to Zhou. Zhou then conquered Qi, unifying the area north of the Yangtze River. At this time, Zhou gave birth to Yang Jian, also known as Nalyan, a native of Huyan in Hongnong Commandery and an eighth-generation descendant of Zhen, the Grand Commandant of the Han dynasty. His father, Yang Zhang, joined Yuan Tai's rebellion and was granted the surname Pulu Ru. He was enfeoffed as Duke of Sui for his military achievements. When Yang Jian was born, his mother, Lady Lu, dreamed of a blue dragon pressing against her belly before giving birth to him. He was born with eyes like the morning stars and strange markings on his hands, resembling the character Chinese letter, King. Yang Zhang and his wife knew he was an extraordinary person. Later, an old nun said to his mother, "This child is of immeasurable nobility, but he must be separated from his parents to grow up. This poor nun is willing to take care of him." His mother then entrusted the old nun to raise him. However, this old nun lived alone in the nunnery and always asked a neighbor to look after him when she went out. One day, when the old nun went out, a neighbor woman entered the nunnery and was holding and playing with Yang Jian. Suddenly, she saw two horns sprouting from his head and his body covered with scales, resembling a dragon. The neighbor woman was startled, cried out, "Monster!" and threw him to the ground. Just then, the old nun returned and quickly picked him up, lamenting, "I've frightened my son. He'll be emperor a few years later." But heaven will always unify things, and a true man will eventually be born. Several years later, Yang Jian grew up, and the old nun returned him to the Yang family. Not long after, the old nun passed away. Later, Yang Zhang also died, and Yang Jian succeeded him as Duke of Sui. At that time, Emperor Wu of Zhou, seeing his extraordinary appearance, became suspicious and repeatedly sent people to examine him. The examiners knew he would have great fortune and all intervened on his behalf. Knowing Emperor Wu's suspicion, Yang Jian arranged for a woman to become his crown princess to secure his favor. Until Emperor Wu's death, the crown prince ascended the throne as Emperor Xuan. Whenever Emperor Xuan went on tour, after his father's death, he always entrusted Yang Jian with the responsibility of guarding the capital. Emperor Xuan was weak and incompetent, and Yang Jian, having gained power, usurped the Zhou dynasty, retaining the name Sui and changing the era name to the first year of Kaihuang. Indeed, Wang Mang usurped the throne from Liu Bei because of his stepfather. Cao Cao took his beloved son and overthrew the Han dynasty. Since ancient times, treacherous heroes have followed the same path. Never treat a nation as easily as a flower. When the Sui emperor first ascended the throne, he made Empress Dugu his empress, his eldest son Yang his crown prince, and his second son Guang his prince of Jin. He was in high spirits, attending court early and leaving late. Because Empress Dugu was extremely jealous and domineering, he abstained from women. Furthermore, his court boasted capable ministers, including the brilliant strategists Li Delin, Gao Jiang, and Su Wei, and the powerful generals Yang Su, Li Yuan, He Ruobai, and Han Qinhu. With a wise ruler and virtuous ministers, he gradually showed ambition to expand his territory and unify the Jiangnan region. If the rulers of Jiangnan had also been diligent and appointed capable officials, the outcome would have been uncertain. Unfortunately, founding emperors are often diligent, while those maintaining the status quo are often leisurely. Founding emperors favor the upright and distance themselves from the treacherous, while those maintaining the status quo dislike the old and prefer the young. Even rulers of mediocre talent are easily manipulated. Those with only minor talent are not easily controlled. Emperor Xiubo of Chen was also a clever and intelligent man, but being born in the southern dynasties, he inherited the delicate and flamboyant habits of the time, hence his fondness for poetry and prose. Then he encountered two officials from the Eastern Palace, Kong Fan and Jiang Zong, both men of modest talent but lacking in integrity. As the saying goes, poetry is a companion to wine, and wine is a matchmaker for lust. With nothing else to do but compose poetry, they found joy in wine and pleasure in bed. The embellishments of the palace served to cultivate their romantic nature and provide immediate amusement. Upon ascending the throne, instead of changing his character, he became even more ambitious, promoting Jiang Zong to Minister of Works and appointing Kong Fan as Minister of the Imperial Household. Neither the emperor nor his ministers paid attention to state affairs, spending their days attending banquets and composing poetry. The emperor then found a beauty under consort Gong, named Zhang Lihua, with 7-foot-long hair that shone like a mirror. She was also intelligent, graceful, and charming, with a captivating beauty that pleased the eye and delighted the heart. Furthermore, she was willing to recommend him to other concubines in the harem. For a time, consorts Gong and Kong, beauties Wang and Li, Ladies Zhang and Zhu, consort Yuan, consort He, and consort Jiang all enjoyed the emperor's favor. How could Emperor Chen have time to discuss court affairs? Even when he did peruse the officials' memorials, he would always lean on his lap, Zhang Lihua on his lap, and the two of them would discuss and decide matters. Women have little foresight, and here, eunuchs inevitably took advantage of the situation, accepting bribes and abusing their power. Furthermore, Kong Fan and consort Kong had become sworn siblings, consolidating their favor and monopolizing power. At that time, everyone knew of Jiang and Kong, but not Emperor Chen. The fragrance of their songs wafted from their lips. The wine stains on their golden goblets were green. A lavish banquet, obscuring the light of the candles. Moreover, with a group of beautiful women, they needed pearls and jade pendants to match their delicate features, emerald silk quilts to match their willow waists and peach-like faces, delicacies from land and sea, golden cups and jade goblets to match their graceful dances and melodious songs, jade chambers and embroidered screens and ivory couches to match their flowery and willow-like array. Inevitably, they took from the common people. This attracted a group of wicked and unscrupulous men. Shi Wenqing, Shen Keqing, Yang Huilang, Su Ji, and Jai Huijing, who helped him gather resources from mountains and seas, exploiting and harming the people. In front of the Guangzhou Hall, they built 3 grand pavilions, Linchun, Jiki, and Wangxian, each dozens of feet high and dozens of rooms wide. The railings and windows were all made of sandalwood, inlaid with gold, jade, pearls, and emeralds. Outside were beaded curtains. Inside were precious beds and jade tables, brocade curtains and emerald screens. And these were the most elegant and refined men and women of the time, perfectly adorned. They purchased rare stones from Taihu Lake, Lingbai, and Guangdong and Guangxi, piling them to resemble Pinglai Island. Water was channeled from the mountainside to create ponds, with riverbanks of fine stones and bridges of white stone, adorned with exotic flowers and rare plants. Truly, it rivals even the celestial paradise, and surpasses even the Epeng Palace. Emperor Chen resided in the Linchun Pavilion, Zhang Lihua in the Jiki Pavilion, and the 2 concubines, Gong and Kong, in the Wangxian Pavilion. All 3 pavilions were connected by covered walkways and winding corridors, where banquets were held daily. Outside, Kong Fan, Jiang Zong, and the scholar official Wang Cao, among others, and inside the female scholar Yuan Dash, among others, all accompanied him. When the wine flowed freely, he ordered the concubines, the female scholar, Jiang, Kong, and others to compose poems in response. Emperor Chen and Zhang Lihua appraised the poems, bestowing rewards upon each, setting the most beautiful verses to music. Each banquet featured thousands of palace women, taking turns singing and reciting, burning the midnight oil, often resulting in long nights of drinking. The splendor and the refined manners were beyond description. It was thus. Spending millions of coins for a moment's pleasure. Cups float with the blood of innocent children. Banquets are held for the common people. The palace revels daily. The villages grow desolate. Still feeling the days are too short, they dance drunkenly until the moon sets. News reached the Sui dynasty, and the Sui emperor conceived the idea of attacking Chen. Gao Jiang, Yang Su, and He Ruobai all submitted strategies for pacifying Chen. While they were discussing, suddenly Prince Guang of Jin requested to lead troops to attack Chen, saying, "Xiubo is tyrannical, causing immense suffering to the people. The Imperial Army's southern expedition is like crushing an egg. If we delay, Xiubo will perish, and a wicked ruler will succeed him, making success difficult. I request to lead troops immediately to punish the tyrant, seize the despot, and unify the world." Readers, you might think that conquest is a matter of swords and spears, with victory and defeat uncertain. Prince Jin, a prince of the Sui dynasty, with high rank and great wealth, what reason would he have for such a thing? It is because Prince Jin is the second son of the Sui Emperor, and both he and Crown Prince Yang are sons of Empress Dugu. When the Empress gave birth to Prince Jin, in a hazy dream, she saw the room filled with red light, and from her belly came a loud sound, like thunder, and a golden dragon suddenly flew out of her body. At first, it seemed small, but gradually grew larger, soaring into the air, covering a distance of more than 10 miles, barring its fangs and claws, circling endlessly. Just as she was enjoying the sight, a sudden gust of wind arose, and the golden dragon inexplicably plummeted to the ground, its tail twitching several times before shrinking into a ball. Upon closer inspection, it was no longer a golden dragon, but rather resembled a rat the size of an ox. Empress Dugu was startled, awoke abruptly, and then gave birth to Prince Jin. The Sui Emperor, upon hearing that the Empress had dreamt of a golden dragon reaching the heavens, named Prince Jin Amo. Empress Dugu was overjoyed and said, "The nickname is excellent, why not bestow upon me a formal name as well?" The Sui Emperor replied, "A ruler must be wise and insightful, so let me call him Yang Wying." He then thought, while founding an empire requires wisdom, maintaining it requires magnanimity, so let me call him Yang Guang. Indeed. A black bird and a red dragon once descended, their auspicious signs circling the stars and traversing the moon. Their birth was not in vain. Although his virtue is far inferior to that of the three sovereigns, his red light still fills the Forbidden City. Because Empress Dugu loved her son dearly, she often spoke of the auspicious signs at his birth to the Prince of Jin. The Prince of Jin, however, was unwilling to be subservient to anyone. He thought to himself, "I am a brother of the Crown Prince, yet he is the Emperor and I am but a subject. If he ascends the throne, I will have to shout, 'Long live the Emperor,' to pay homage. That is a minor matter. If I make even the slightest mistake, he could take my life. If I merely fawn upon him, how can I fulfill my lifelong desires? Only by devising a plan to seize the throne can I achieve my lifelong happiness. But without some merit for the state, how can I attain such a position?" He pondered this deeply, which aroused the jealousy of the Dugu Emperor. Court officials who had concubines and children advised the Sui Emperor to depose him. The Crown Prince, favoring his concubine Yunjaeksun, lost the Empress's favor. The Prince of Jin seized this opportunity, outwardly appearing filial and respectful, while secretly plotting against him and praising his own virtue and filial piety. He also plotted to conquer the Chen army, greedily seeking merit and control of the military, and needed to cultivate relationships with powerful ministers to gain their support. Fortunately, the Sui Emperor was a suspicious man and unwilling to entrust his entire army to his subordinates. Therefore, he appointed the Prince of Jin as Grand Marshal, Yang Su as Deputy Grand Marshal, Gao Jiang as Chief Secretary of the Prince of Jin's Marshal's office, and Li Yuan as military advisor. Gao Jiang, a native of Bohai styled Jiaoxuan, was born resourceful and skilled in military affairs. Li Yuan, a native of Chengji styled Xiud, had 3 breasts and had once defeated bandits at Longmen, firing 72 arrows and killing 72 men. Furthermore, 2 generals, Han Qinhu and He Ruobai, were ruthless killers, serving as vanguards, advancing from Liu County. Yang Su led his troops from Yang'an, descending the river. The entire force consisted of 90 generals and 600,000 soldiers, all under the command of the Prince of Jin. They advanced in all directions, stretching east to the sea and west to Sichuan, their banners and ships connecting for 1,000 miles. The soldiers garrisoning Chen State sent urgent reports, but Shi Wenqing and Shen Keqing suppressed them. When Minister Yuan Xian petitioned to reinforce Jingku and Keishi, Jiangzong again obstructed the plan. The Chen ruler, unable to decide, said, "The imperial aura is here. The Qi army came 3 times, and the Zhou army came twice, and all were utterly defeated. What are they trying to achieve?" Kong Fan quickly flattered him, saying, "The Yangtze River is a natural barrier, separating north and south. How can men and horses fly across? It's always the border generals who want to gain merit, making false claims of urgency. I always worry about my low rank. If the Sui army comes, I will surely be Grand Commandant." Shi Wenqing said, "The weather is cold, men and horses will freeze to death." "How can they come?" Kong Fan added. "It's a pity my horses froze to death." The Chen ruler laughed loudly, rendering Yuan Xian and the other ministers powerless. This was the discussion on how the Chen state defended against the enemy. Drinking and music continued as before. The beacon fires from the north illuminate the Yangtze River. The general's spirit remains undiminished after the bloody battle. Winning the bright moon and sun in the deep palace. A new melody is played on the silver zither and sandalwood clappers. On New Year's Day of the second year of Zhenming, 646 AD, all the officials gathered. Emperor Chen drank heavily all night and slept soundly until dusk. Unexpectedly, on the same day, he Ruobai led his troops across the river from Guangling, while Han Qinhu led 500 elite soldiers from Hengjiang directly to Keishi. The defending general, Su Zijian, reported this to the emperor while simultaneously preparing to lead his troops to meet the enemy. However, all the soldiers were drunk on New Year's Day, and none could handle weapons. Zijian had no choice but to abandon his soldiers and travel to Shidu by single boat. Emperor Chen was already drunk, and he waited from morning till night before finally being granted an audience. The emperor replied, "We will discuss deploying troops tomorrow." The next day, he spent the rest of the day in a drunken stupor. On the fourth day, he dispatched Xiao Mo, Lu Guangda, and others to resist. Xiao Mo wanted to take advantage of He Ruobai's initial arrival at Zhongshan to attack him unprepared. Ren Zhang wanted 10,000 elite troops and 300 Jinchai ships to cut off his retreat. These were all ingenious strategies, but Emperor Chen refused to listen. On the eighth day, he commanded his generals in a fierce battle. At that time, only Lu Guangda fought desperately, killing more than 300 of He Ruobai's men. Kong Fan's troops fled as soon as they engaged in battle. Xiao Mo was captured, and Ren Zhang escaped. The Emperor of Chen did not punish him, but gave him 2 chests of gold and silver, ordering him to recruit men to fight. Unexpectedly, he ran into Qin Hu at Shizigang, then led his troops to surrender, leading Qin Hu into the city. At this time, the people and officials in the city fled in panic. The Emperor of Chen was still sitting blankly in the palace waiting for the generals to report the victory. When he heard that the northern troops had entered the city, he jumped off the throne and left. Yuan Xian grabbed him and said, "Your Majesty is respectful and in full regalia. I don't think they would dare to harm you." The Emperor of Chen said, "The troops are coming. This is no joke." He broke free and ran away, rushing into the inner palace. He found Consort Zhang and Consort Kong and said, "The northern troops have come. We must hide together and not lose each other." He tied Consort Zhang's hand with his left hand and Consort Kong's hand with his right hand and went out. Upon reaching Jingyang Well, they heard the clamor of soldiers shouting, "Enough! Enough! We can't go any further. Let's all die together." They prepared to throw themselves into the well. Later, Xiaohu Gongyun, a courtier, shielded the well with his body. The emperor argued with him for a long time, and finally they both jumped into the well. Fortunately, it was late winter and early spring, and the well was dry, barely getting wet. The emperor said, "Even if we escape, how can we get out?" Triumphant songs have replaced the flowers of the rear courtyard. Flutes and drums have replaced the beat of the gong. The royal aura of the 6 dynasties has ceased today. Pitifully, they are reduced to frogs in a well. The 3 hid for a long time, then heard a commotion. It was Sui soldiers searching for jewels and palace maids. They found the Empress Dowager hidden in her chambers and the Crown Prince sitting in his secluded chamber, but the Chen Emperor was nowhere to be seen. The soldiers searched everywhere, and a palace maid said, I saw him run to the well. Could he have drowned? Hearing this, the soldiers all went to the well to look. The well was deep and dark, and they could only vaguely see someone. They quickly lowered their grappling hooks to try and catch him. The Chen Emperor dodged, and the hooks couldn't reach him. The soldiers, at a loss, threw stones into the well to test its depth so they could search further. Seeing the stones flying down, the Chen Emperor shouted, "Don't hit me! Quickly throw down the rope and pull me up." The soldiers hurriedly grabbed a long rope, threw down the hook several dozen feet, and waited for half a day. Then they heard the Chen Emperor say, "Pull hard, and I will reward you with gold and jewels, but don't let it slip and hurt me." At first, 2 people pulled, but they couldn't move him. Then 2 more joined in, but they still couldn't move him. These people said, "After all, he's an emperor, so he has a heavy heart." One said, "After all, he's a fool." When they shouted and were pulled up, it turned out there were 3 of them, bound together with Consort Zhang and Consort Kong, hence the heaviness. Everyone burst into laughter. Song Dynasty poet Wang Yuanfu wrote, "The Sui army swept in, yet the emperor remained at peace. Know that the world is narrow, not even as wide as a well." Beacon fires blazed outside the tower, blood stained the stream. The waning moon is heartless, still leaning on the railing. The crowd escorted the Chen ruler to see Han Kinhu. The Chen ruler, behaving like an official, bowed upon meeting him. Later that evening, He Ruobai entered the city through the outer gate and summoned the later lord. The later lord, seeing He Ruobai's imposing presence, felt a chill run down his spine. He Ruobai looked at him and laughed, saying, "No need to be afraid, you'll be a loyal subject." He then ordered the later lord to lead his palace servants to temporarily reside in the Dejio Hall, while troops were deployed to guard the area. Meanwhile, the Prince of Jin, leading his troops, followed behind, first ordering Gao Jiang and Li Yuan to pacify the people and prohibit looting and burning. They rushed into Jiankang, where the 2 were in the capital, informing the common people, restraining the soldiers, and arresting the corrupt officials of the Chen state. The Prince of Jin, usually aloof and celibate, now far from the capital and having heard of Zhang Lihua's allure, ordered Gao Jiang's son, Gao Dihong, to rush to Jiankang to capture Zhang Lihua. Gao Jiang said, "The Prince of Jin, as the commander-in-chief, is tasked with suppressing tyranny and saving the people. How can he prioritize women?" He refused to send him. Gao Dihong said, "My lord, the Prince of Jin holds military power. If he takes a woman and resists, he may incur the prince's wrath." Li Yuan then said, "Lord Gao, Zhang and Kong, these vixens, bewitched the emperor, usurped power, and caused the downfall of the country. The root of this disaster lies with them. How can we allow this source of calamity to remain, further defiling the Sui dynasty? It would be better to kill them to extinguish the Prince of Jin's evil intentions." Gao Jiang nodded. "Exactly. In the past, Taegong, masked, beheaded Daji, fearing that keeping her would only further bewitch the emperor. How can we allow Lihua to remain and seduce the Prince of Jin?" He then ordered that she and Consort Kong be brought to Qingxi and executed. Gao Dihong pleaded desperately, but to no avail. Autumn waters, graceful spirit, ice jade skin, a casual smile, and the nation is lost. But pity the blood-stained grass of Qingxi, not as beautiful as Yiguang's journey across the 5 lakes. With the 2 beauties, Zhang and Kong, executed, Gao Dihong returned dejectedly. Upon arriving at the camp, he was greeted by the Prince of Jin, who asked with a beaming smile, "Has Lihua arrived?" Fearing the prince's displeasure, Gao Dihong shifted the blame to Li Yuan, saying, "This humble official was ordered to fetch her. My father dared not delay, ordering the preparation of a fine carriage and 10 beautiful concubines to accompany her to the front." The Prince of Jin laughed. "Even if you hadn't sent your secretary, Chief Secretary Gao might not have been so considerate." Gao Dihong said, "But what can be done about Li Yuan? He said that a source of trouble cannot be tolerated, and even Consort Kong was executed." The Prince of Jin was shocked, saying, "Why didn't your father make the decision?" Dihong replied, My father and I tried to stop him repeatedly, but he refused to listen and even blamed my father and me. A trap of beauties used to fool the king. The king of Jin roared in fury. That wretched wretch. He's a debauched man. Surely he's taken a fancy to these two beauties and blamed me for taking them, so he deliberately killed them with sour grapes. Then he sighed. It was my impetuousness. If I had stayed 2 more days until we reached Jiankang, I would have only said I was taking Chen Xiubao and his family for escort. If I had stayed then, who would have stopped me? Even Li Yuan tried to persuade me, but I wouldn't listen, and he couldn't do anything to me. This is my miscalculation, causing the deaths of 2 beauties. Finally, he said bitterly, though I didn't kill Lihua died because of me. I must kill this traitor and avenge the 2 beauties. His regret vanished instantly, but the seeds of disaster had already been sown. Hanging his head under the white sky, punishing the fallen Chen, who understands that supporting the king is disobeying the king. Envy the owl on the eastern coast, whose wisdom saved the Yue kingdom and protected its inhabitants. Prince of Jin, angered by this, reluctantly played the role of a good man. Upon arriving in Jiankang, he arrested Shi Wenqing, accusing him of disloyalty and flattery, Shen Qing Chongli and Fengjun, and Yang Huilang, Su Ji, and Jai Huijing of violating the law and harming the people, the 5 treacherous officials of the time, all of whom were executed at Shiguan Pass. He also sent Kong Fan, Wang Kuo, and others to the border regions to quell the resentment of the people of the 3 Wu regions. He ordered Pei Ju, the secretary of the marshal's office, to collect the maps and seal the treasury, taking nothing to gain a reputation for virtue. He also impeached He Ruobai for his early defeat and violation of military orders, and Li Yuan for negligence and dereliction of duty, requesting their arrest and interrogation. The Sui emperor knew that Ruobai had made the greatest contribution in the pacification of Chen, and Li Yuan was loyal and upright in his official duties. Both were pardoned. He first recalled Ruobai and bestowed upon him 10,000 bolts of silk. At that time, various prefectures and counties were still unsettled, and various generals were dispatched to supervise troops in their campaigns. Sichuan, Jingchu, Huayu, and Yunnan Guizhou all came under the control of the Sui dynasty, and the world was once again unified. Only Lingnan remained unconquered, with several prefectures jointly acknowledging Lady Zai, wife of the prefect of Shillong in Jiaoliang Prefecture, as their ruler. Lady Zai was the wife of Feng Bao, the prefect of Yangchun in the Chen dynasty, and the mother of Feng Pu. Upon hearing of the Sui dynasty's defeat of Chen, Lady Zai personally raised an army to protect the 4 borders, building a city to defend it. The people called her Holy Mother, and her city, Lady Zai's city. The Sui dynasty sent Pillar of State Wei Guang to pacify the Lingnan region, but Lady Zai refused to allow him to advance. The Prince of Jin sent a letter from the Chen ruler to Lady Zai, informing her of the fall of the kingdom and urging her to return to the Sui. Upon receiving the letter, Lady Zai gathered several thousand leaders, weeping bitterly all day. After bowing and thanking the Sui, she sent her grandson Ang to lead a group to welcome Guang to Guangzhou. Lady Zai personally donned armor, rode a mounted horse, held a brocade umbrella, and led a retinue of mounted guards, carrying an imperial edict and proclaiming the court's benevolent intentions. She traveled through more than 10 prefectures, and all those she encountered surrendered. In total, she gained 30 prefectures, 100 commanderies, and 400 counties. Feng Ang was appointed Grand Master of the 3 departments, and his wife was granted the title of Grand Lady of Kang County, Song Dynasty. Linjin County was bestowed upon her as her fief. She was required to pay tribute annually and attend court every 3 years. Contemporary poems praised her deeds, including lines such as "The brocade carriage rushes to greet the emperor in the morning, the bugle calls at night." and clouds sway over the brocade carriage's banner. The moon shines on the bow at the horn's end. She possessed wisdom, courage, fortune, and longevity, all four virtues. She died at over 80 years old and is considered the foremost female general of all time. Leaving aside the matter of Lady Kaio, let us recount that in the 3rd month of that year, the Prince of Jin left Wang Xiao to garrison Jiankang, while he himself led a large army, along with the Emperor of Chen, his imperial relatives, concubines, and civil and military officials, departing from Jiankang. They arrived in Chang'an in the 4th month, where the captives were presented at the Imperial Ancestral Temple. The Prince of Jin was appointed Grand Commandant, bestowed with a carriage, imperial robes, and gifts of black jade and white jade. Yang Su was enfeoffed as Duke of Yue, and he Ruobai and Han Qinhu were both promoted to Grand Pillar of State. Ruobai was enfeoffed as Duke of Song. Qinhu, due to his indulgence of soldiers and debauchery within the Chen Palace, was not granted a title or fief. Gao Jiang was added to the rank of Grand Pillar of State and promoted to Duke of Qi. Li Yuan was promoted to Vice Minister of the Imperial Guard. Because the Prince of Jin was displeased with him, refusing to reward him for his merits and instead impeaching him, his rewards were extremely meager. Li Yuan did not mind and was pleased that the Prince of Jin had been ordered to garrison Yangzhou again, preventing further slander. However, the Prince of Jin's power and prestige grew daily, attracting many strategists and advisors to his staff. His ambitions grew increasingly urgent. The 4 sages, having gathered their wings, were no match for the ambitions of high-ranking officials. They would rather let the beans weep in the pot than let the beanstalk and sieve grow together. Moreover, with Empress Dugu protecting them internally and Yuan Shu devising plans for them externally, how could their schemes fail? But what will the Emperor of Sui do? Let us find out in the next chapter.